dear students, I hope that you are fine. Welcome to this new video lesson of the novel Good by Mr. Chips. Lesson number 3, lecture number 30. We are going to read page number 7. In this video lesson, we are going to read the first long paragraph of lecture number 7. Are you with me on page number 7? Let us start. A pleasant, placid life. Placid means calm and peaceful. A pleasant, placid life at Mrs. Wickett's. He had no worries. His pension was adequate. Adequate? Enough. Sufficient. And there was a little money saved up besides. It means that Mr. Chips is financially satisfied. He does not need to ask for money from other people. He does not need to beg money from his friends or other people. Financially, he has sufficient amount with him in old age. He could afford everything and anything he wanted. This is a great blessing in old age. Most of the time, old people do not have financial resources and they have to ask other people for their needs. But this was not the case with Mr. Chips. His room was furnished simply and with schoolmasterly taste. Although his room was simple, it was decorated with a schoolmasterly taste. It means in his room there was everything that one can expect from a schoolmaster to have. And what are the things one should expect from a schoolmaster to have? In the following lines, the answer is given. A few bookshelves, place to keep books, and sporting trophies. Sporting trophies that Mr. Chips might have won in sports and games competitions. A mantelpiece crowded with fixture cards. Mantelpiece is a fireplace with wooden piece on the top, crowded with fixture cards. Now fixture cards is a kind of membership card. It is not used here in Pakistan, but in UK it is very famous. Most of the groups, associations, societies, and they give their members fixture cards. On fixture cards, information like where to meet, when they are going to meet, time, place, conditions are mentioned. So there are so many picture cards to be found in Mr. Chips' room, and signed photographs of boys and men. A worn Turkey carpet. Carpet is from the country Turkey and it is worn. Worn, W-O-R-N, worn means old and used. Big easy chairs. Pictures on the wall of and what type of pictures are hanging on the wall? Of the Acropolis and the Forum. Now, Acropolis is written with a capital letter A, and Forum is also starting with capital F. It means they are particular nouns, and both of these, Acropolis and the Forum, are names of places. They are well-known historical places in the country of Rome. And they are so famous that their pictures, these are historical places, and their pictures are very famous and they are used as decoration pieces in rooms. So Mr. Chips has two pictures in his room, Acropolis and the Forum. Nearly everything had come out of his old housemaster's room in schoolhouse. All the things and articles that are decorating his room now, they are brought from his previous room or house which was situated in the Brookfield. The books were chiefly classical. Classical are the books which are of very old writers. We may have classical songs, we may have classical movies, and we have classical books too. Old books, old and very well known and very well accepted books. So Mr. Chips he likes chiefly classical books. For that had been his subject. And why does he like classical books? Because his subject is classical too, and it is his it is his need of his subject to study the classical books. There was, however, a seasoning of history. Now, the author is telling us that classical books were not the only books that were found in his rooms. There were some history books as well. The word seasoning means that flavor of history. Here the word seasoning, a seasoning of history means there are also books that show his history flavor, that he likes books of history. And then there is another category of books, Bell's letters. Bell's letters are purely literary writings. So he likes, up till now we have seen that he likes three types of books: literary books, historical books, and classics. There was also a bottom shelf piled up with cheap editions of detective novels. Now this is the fourth type of book. He likes detective novels. Detective novels are the books in which a detective has a case to solve. They are also called suspense novels, and Mr. Chips likes them very much. Chips enjoyed these. Sometimes he took down Virgil or Xenophon and read for a few moments. Now Virgil is a famous Roman poet. He is classical writer, and Xenophon is a great famous classical writer. But he was soon back again with Dr. Thorndyke or Inspector French. Now these two characters, Dr. Thorndyke is a famous detective character, and Inspector French is another famous detective character. This sentence actually means that Chips would start with classical. He would start reading books, his session with classical books, but soon he would get tired, he would start feeling bored, and he would switch to detective novels. He was not, despite his long years of assiduous teaching, a very profound classical scholar. Although Mr. Chips taught classics for years and years, but he could not appreciate classics much. He liked detective novels more. Assiduous means diligent. Long years of assiduous teaching. Assiduous, diligent, a very profound, great. Here it means great. Indeed, he thought of Latin and Greek far more as dead language from which English gentlemen ought to know a few quotations than as living tongues that had ever been spoken by living people. Latin and Greek are two of the most famous languages of the world history. As we know English today and as an international language, there was a time in the history of the world that Latin and Greek were the international languages. But when we talk about the historical time period when Mr. Chips was alive and his story has been set in, we see that both of the languages, Latin and Greek, they were dying, and English had become an international language. English had replaced them. So Mr. Chips has the idea, it's the same idea that everyone would have in that period, that English is more important to learn than Latin and Greek. So Mr. Chips did not appreciate Latin and Greek much as compared to English. He liked and appreciated English. All what he thought about Latin and Greek was that English gentlemen should know something about the Latin, or something about Latin and something about Greek. A lot of knowledge of the languages was not needed. This is what Mr. Chips thought. This is what this sentence is saying. He liked those short leading articles in the Times. Now the Times is very famous magazine at this time, and it was also the famous magazine. It was very famous magazine at the time of Mr. Chips. The Times is one of the authentic and most famous magazines of the world. So Mr. Chips thought he liked those short leading articles in the Times that introduced a few tags. Here the word tag means quotations. Mr. Chips wanted that he liked those columns or essays or articles in the Times magazine which would start with Latin or Greek quotations that he recognized, and particularly he appreciated those quotations of Latin and Greek which he could read and he could understand and he would recognize. To be among the swindling number of people. Swindling, here swindling means reducing or decreasing, becoming less and less. To be among the swindling number of people who understood such things was to him a kind of secret and valued Freemasonry. Freemasonry, here it means secret brotherhood. Freemasonry means a kind of community. Mr. Chips thought that he belongs to the population, he belongs to the community who still understands Latin and Greek, and they have this secret advantage. They can understand and enjoy essays and writings a little bit more than others. It represented, he felt, one of the chief benefits to be derived from a classical education. Mr. Chips thought that one of the advantages he is enjoying because of he got classical education is that he is able to understand Latin and Greek, and he enjoys this opportunity, this facility, this skill. As you see in this paragraph, almost all of it is about Mr. Chips' reading habits, studying habits. Some lines are about his room, and some lines are about his views about Latin and Greek language. See you in the next class. In the next class, we are going to read page number 7, chapter 3, and we'll end it. We'll read last 2 paragraphs. That you have enjoyed the lesson. Have a very nice time.